Premier League campaigns for a shot at a semi-final. All of a sudden we're at the quarter-final stage of the Carabao Cup, and Wembley perhaps starts to appear on the horizon for these two clubs and 6 others too. Michael Bridges is alongside me, David Stowell, in the box tonight, and St James's Park is, as usual, loud and proud. Michael.
Yes, it always is, David. You know, it's special occasions like this that the locals in the Geordie faithful come out to cheer on their team, and it's a big night. It's quarter-final time. Newcastle have been craving something under Eddie Howe since the takeover, and they came so close in recent times, and it's another opportunity tonight. And Brentford are here to spoil the party with Thomas Frank, and you can see them there up in the high part of St James's Park. They've come here in their numbers to cheer on their team as well tonight. And if the last game between these two in the Premier League is anything to go by, David, we're in for an absolute blinder here again at St James's Park tonight.
Yeah, fingers crossed that is an indicator of things to come tonight in terms of the levels of excitement, at least, and we'll see who comes out on top. But for these two sides, this is a big opportunity now, isn't it? Premier League campaign is one thing, and it's going in certain different directions. Two sides, this is a big opportunity now, isn't it? Premier League campaign is one thing, and it's going in certain different directions for the two sides, but this is a chance to edge closer to silverware.
Yeah, and I mean, as managers and as players, you want to win things. That's what it is about. And you know, Thomas Frank and Eddie Howe both looking for that silverware for their teams, and no better opportunity in the Carabao Cup quarter-finals. I think we have seen this, you know, competition progress. We've seen the teams now start to unveil and go for it, and not look to put in like a second-string team or give players opportunities in numbers for game time. We're going to see the lineup shortly, and you know, both teams going for this one. And Thomas Frank will be looking to change that away form if they're wanting to get anything to go further and get into the semi-finals here.
In this competition in the last few seasons, and here come the two sides. 4 years ago,
it's never easy at St James's Park.
Both managers have always taken this competition seriously, and almost to the day, these two went toe-to-toe at this very same quarter-final stage of this very competition. Look to try and progress whenever possible. Both managers have always taken this competition seriously and always look to try and progress whenever possible. Newcastle United have had a really good run. The Silvers' unanswered goal to take their place in their first ever major cup semi-final before losing out to Spurs over 2 legs. Newcastle United themselves have since been to the final, falling short against Manchester United. So who can produce the goods to take another step along the road to glory in this competition this time round, I wonder? We don't have long to wait to find out. And as the two teams meet each other, let's confirm for you tonight's team lineups. Well, Newcastle United were League Cup finalists the season before last, and Eddie Howe aims for the semi-finals this time around with an unchanged lineup from the weekend demolition of Leicester. Martin Dubravka continues in goal in Nick Pope's absence through injury. Alexander Isak has scored in each of his last 3 Premier League games and in 3 of his 4 games against tonight's opponents. Indeed, 5 of Newcastle's front 6 have found the net against the Bees in the past. Joe Linton is one of them. He has a Premier League suspension looming, but is free to be on cup duty tonight. 8 of this 11 started the defeat to Brentford some 11 days ago. Well, Thomas Frank promised to field a strong team tonight, and he rings the changes from Sunday's defeat at Chelsea with starting roles for 5 of his weekend substitutes. Messrs Ayer, Mee, Carvalho and Janelt all come in, as does Kevin Schade after 5 goals in his last 8 appearances. Nathan Collins, Mikkel Damsgaard and Mads Rooslev moved to the bench, along with Brian Mbeumo, who's already beaten his goals tally from the whole of last season, and we haven't hit Christmas. Christian Norgard is not involved. Ethan Pinnock and Vitaly Janelt were in the starting 11, which knocked Newcastle out at this stage 4 years ago, and 7 of this 11 started the recent Premier League win over tonight's hosts. So goals win games, and we've got some guys up top, Michael, who are in red-hot form for both sides at the moment.
Well, Alexander Isak, he's in absolute great form. You mentioned his quality against Brentford. He loves playing them, he loves scoring against them, and 7 goals in the Premier League and 4. He loves scoring against them, and 7 goals in the Premier League and 4 assists this season is why he is hot property for Newcastle United, but also a lot of clubs chasing his signature. So January is going to be very interesting to see if Newcastle can keep a hold of that man, because he leads the line so well. He's a natural goal scorer, he's got abundance of ability, when he goes at defences, and he knows where the back of the net is, David. And at the opposite end of the field, wanted to point out Wissa, because this season, you know, he's in the Premier League 12 starts, 9 goals to his name. He's a threat with his pace, and you know, he's a handful for defenders because of that pace. He knows where the positioning is. He doesn't tend to drop deep and get the ball, but what he is, he's a great outlet in the transition moments because of the pace that he possesses, and such an intelligent player to bring others in.
So many players to keep an eye on tonight. Katani Yannat wears the captain's armband for Brentford. And the man in the middle is Sam Barrett. He's got the whistle tonight for his 3rd Brentford game this term for Brentford. And the man in the middle is Sam Barrett. He's got the whistle tonight for his 3rd Brentford game this term. He last refereed Newcastle a year ago here in their 3-0 win over Fulham. So we're set and ready to go. A place in the semi-finals awaits one of these sides, and we must have a winner tonight via penalties if necessary. Their Premier League clash just over a week ago produced 6 goals, a fair few talking points, and a Brentford victory. Thomas Frank says he expects that Newcastle will go after his side tonight as a result of that, but also declares that the Bees will be ready for them and that he is convinced his side will score. So let's see. Newcastle, of course, in the traditional black and white stripes. Brentford in their pink away strip. And Sandro Tonali has the ball at feet for the impressive so far this season, Lewis Hall.
Yeah, Lewis Hall been outstanding for Newcastle, and it's taken him a while to settle into St James's Park in Newcastle, but this season, in both league and cup games, he just seems to get better and better with every game that he plays. And he had an incredible game against Salah in the first half in that game that we were there to observe at St James's Park. And somebody that's settling very nicely in a black and white shirt now.
Yes, we were here for the Liverpool game, weren't we? That crazy 3-3 match between the two sides. The ball at the double at the weekend. Slotting it through for Guimaraes. Newcastle busy in these early moments. And Brentford well stocked at the back to clear. Guimaraes was one of those. He scored his first goal of the season at the weekend against Leicester City. Forward by Fabian Schär, but not on. On it goes from Gordon now, with Isak and Joelinton waiting in the middle. Murphy. It's one for Lewis Hall to chase, and he'll marshal it out of play. Here's Hall for Gordon. Hall charging on. Just to draw your attention to a late change for Brentford, which happened just before kickoff, just as we were going through the team lineups. Nathan Collins has come in at the back for them. Sepp van den Berg, presumably injured in the warm-up. That is the change for Brentford right from the off here. Here's Tonali. Newcastle trying to make headway. It's Joelinton on the spin, and Collins in the way crucially. And down goes Schade, which relieves the pressure on Brentford.
Well, it's a good start from Newcastle United. But a couple of moments in the possession in the final third where they've shifted the ball. Like you say, that change coming at the back. You think of all the work for Brentford that they've done leading into this game. They were practicing corners against defensively. Thomas Frank had his team lined up beforehand. I think that's the injury that was seen. So Collins comes in there. Pinnock will be the centre half in a back three alongside me, and Lewis Potter and Ayer will play as the wing backs for Brentford. Now, Lewis Potter's been great this season for Brentford, up and down with his energy levels defensively, and gets a lot of shots and crosses off. But on the opposite side, I think it's a key area for Anthony Gordon, who can try and exploit Ayer on that far right-hand side because he's not used to playing in that wing-back position. However, you might just see a little change in shape where he'll make a back four when Lewis Potter goes up on that left-hand side.
Forward from Flecken, all the way through to Martin Dubravka. It's worth noting, of course, that Brentford have now played over a year without their first choice wing-back pairing of Aaron Hickey and Rico Henry. Albeit one of their really good performers in recent weeks has been Keane Lewis Potter. He's done a terrific job on the left-hand side. Mats Roslev often on the right as well. It's not often, though, that you are hit by losing both of your wide defensive players at the same time for such a long time as well, which means that even more credit should go towards Thomas Frank and his team.
It's a big part of the game now, the amount of injuries that teams sustain these days, and the managers and staff have got to try and handle that to the best ability, because there's that many games come thick and fast in the pace of the game these days, with the training intensity as well. There's only so much the body can take. Speaking from a man that was injured quite a lot, David.
Ball just skipping away from Shada. There is Nathan Collins, who's expecting to have an evening on the bench. Thrust into the lineup from the off. A player who's already equalled his best ever scoring season in the Premier League with a couple of goals to his name, which he also achieved in the colours of Burnley. And he will be one of those who makes his way forward for the potentially long throw from Ethan Pinnock here. Sam Barrett just calling a halt to proceedings temporarily. And it's Collins he's after.
It's a clash of the heavyweights there, Collins and Joe Linton. Again, this is a key area I think both managers would have been working on in the lead up to this game, because, you know, Pinnock, you've mentioned his long throw there into the area. Newcastle under Eddie Howe would have been working on the shape of how to handle this. You can't allow the first player to win the flick-ons for Brentford. You must all be switched on for moments like this.
Pinnock's throw is well dealt with by Dan Burn. Back in from Pinnock, but Dubravka in charge of that situation and immediately looking to get his side on the front foot. And Mulyuk, though, watching that out of play. Martin Dubravka, who is on loan at Manchester United when they played Newcastle United in the final. So he couldn't play for his parent club, he couldn't play for his loan club, but he got a winner's medal anyway because he was part of the Manchester United squad during the course of the competition. Owen Wissa just keeping an eye on the Newcastle United goalkeeper, who started last time out in the Premier League. His only other appearance this season came in this competition in the victory over AFC Wimbledon. Gordon. Moved on by Livramento. Murphy taking the high route, and no one was there in black and white. But a throw-in is one off Kevin Schade, and immediately taken by Lewis Hall.
Well, as soon as you can see Newcastle with possession in the mid to final third, you can see Brentford getting into their block of five in the midfield four, and then leaving Wissa up top there.
Isak tried to navigate his way past Collins. It's well dug out by Gordon. Livramento trying to tee up Isak, and Tonali hits it! And what a hit it was! Early doors, the tie tilts in Newcastle United's favour. Early doors, the tie tilts in Newcastle United's favour, thanks to Sandro Tonali with a terrific hit.
Well, it's the perfect start at St James's Park, and I was just mentioning there, David, how Brentford have got themselves with players behind the ball, the back five, the midfield four, in one player, and Visser, who's just in the edge of the area here. And just watch Tonali, he just drifts off his shoulder as Collins plays the ball back, and Wisser's the man that doesn't expect it. He doesn't see Tonali, and what he doesn't expect is the quality in the strike, and he just catches it with the laces with a little bit, I call it outside swaz, and what that does, it diverts the ball. You can just see the ball, and it gives Flecken no chance because it's coming through a number of bodies. This is going to be a great angle to see what happens to the ball here when he catches it with that side swaz there. It drives away from the goalkeeper. The technique and quality in the way he catches that is sublime, and what a start for Newcastle.
And he has waited a fair while for that. His only other Newcastle United goal coming 6 minutes into his debut. The opening day as Brentford go to try and respond. Wisser goes down. Sam Barrett waves away the appeals. Important to underline tonight, there is no VAR in operation. It is all about what the on-field officials think.
Well, I was having a look at Wisser, and as a striker myself, you know, you're looking for any kind of touch or impact, and then you're going to go down. You just see Dubravka, very brave there, a great angle to have a look. Clearly gets his hands on the ball, but also catches Wisser. Correct decision by the referee.
So Brentford were hopeful of securing a penalty kick. Instead, all they have is a throw. Ethan Pinnock will launch it. Ethan Pinnock will launch it. Once again, Newcastle United repel the threat. And again from Cher, releasing Murphy, who's happy to run and run. And in the end, a little shove in the back brings that attack to an end. But St James's Park still buzzing from that hit from Sandro Tonali.
Yeah, well, it's a great start. I mean, it's a good start by both teams. The last match that we saw these two come together in the Premier League, I mean, the first half, it was just incredible. It could have been 5-5. The quality and the stand of these two teams, the way they've got the high press, the intensity levels of both ends of the field, but the quality in the final third as well. They've got goal scorers and ability, and Tonali there, just absolutely tremendous technique from the outside the area.
Now this is a real concern for Brentford because
from the outside the area.
Now this is a real concern for Brentford because they've already lost Sepp van den Berg in the warm-up, and fellow centre-half Ethan Pinnock is now on the ground and doesn't look in good shape there. Looks unhappy with the knee, perhaps, the hamstring perhaps. So Brentford with a fair bit to think about after that opening goal. I mentioned Sandro Tonali's other Newcastle goal was back in August of 2023, last year, on his debut. Of course, much has happened to him since, but now back in the black and white stripes and back in the goals.
Yeah, well, I think his energy levels have gone to a new level as well since he's got himself back in the team and getting games under his belt. Like you say, was Newcastle adored him when he first arrived, then he had obviously the suspension. But it's moments like that, that's what the fans have paid for, to come and have a look at. Thomas Frank and his men now with another dilemma to have to deal with, like you said, David. So not a good start for Brentford so far in this game.
It does look hamstring related, Pinnock, as he gets a bit of treatment. Let's have a look at the treatment dished out on the ball here by Sandro Tonali.
Yeah, well, Wisser on the edge here is ball watching. Tonali's the first one to react, and I just think there's not a lot of backlift in that. You've got to admire it. And I called the word, I'm getting a bit of stick off my mates for calling it side swaz, but that's exactly what it is. It's just the technique. He knew exactly what he was doing, and it's all about the time and how he created the power there in that shot.
So we're going to see Mads Roslev much earlier than he would have expected. He's going to come on to replace Ethan Pinnock, who are now two centre-halves down from the initial team lineup. And understandably, Ethan Pinnock will go straight down the tunnel. Generally been kept for the Premier League games.
Well, I think that looks a little bit more balanced now for Brentford. I mean, they've lost Pinnock, yes, he's gone off, but that'll see
Premier League games ahead.
One of the three centre-halves. Roslev will come on.
This Ethan Pinnock's first appearance in this competition this season.
Hand side, so for me that just looks a little bit more balanced when you see the three centre-halves, because I did think that Ayer on that side could get himself in a bit of trouble up against Anthony Gordon.
Yeah, players not involved tonight for Brentford: Aaron Hickey, Rico Henry, Christian Norgard, Matthias Jensen, and their record signing Igor Thiago. They won't want to add Ethan Pinnock to that list long term. Header away by the goalscorer Tonali. We've had 15 minutes, we've had a cracker of a goal, we've had a lively start.
You didn't expect anything else, did you, with these two teams going head-to-head? You didn't expect anything else, did you, with these two teams going head-to-head?
Well, this time, when they met 7 days ago, or 11 days ago, both sides had scored. They were out of the blocks very quickly. Newcastle set the tone with Sean Longstaff belting the crossbar after just 2 minutes. We figured we'd have a good watch tonight, and so it has proved thus far. Roslev's ball on, out of play before Sharda could get there. Well, the ideal start. It's the first time that Newcastle United have reached the League Cup quarter-final 3 seasons in a row. It's a competition that he's always looked to try and... Tonight's hosts haven't won a major honour since 1969. The last major domestic honour was 1955, the FA Cup, which is ticking along towards 70 years ago now. As Mark Flecken and Brentford take a little bit of a risk, it's the way they play, though. And that's Carvalho, who is chopped down to size by Fabian Schär. And that's the first yellow card of the night.
Well, you can clearly see there Carvalho getting the ball and just inviting the challenge there from Schär. I don't think you'd have any complaints. He's trying to say it's his first challenge, but the referee was well placed to just say, you know, that's not going to happen, not on my watch.
He turns 33 on Friday, Fabian.
It's not going to happen, not on my watch.
He turns 33 on Friday, Fabian Schär. Such an important part of the team, not just in terms of defensive abilities, but he scored 3 times this season already. Brentford go short. Sharda. Carvalho trying to tiptoe his way through the challenges. Ayer's cross is blocked, and he will stay forward for the corner.
Just keep an eye on all the Brentford players there. They're just all going inside that 6-yard box there, just to 3 behind Dubravka, and there's 3 players just in front of them there. So what they're trying to do is make sure that the Newcastle players here can't pick them up. Now they're going to change the position, and so something Thomas Frank loves working on.
Corner's inviting, more up than away from Schär. Newcastle struggling to deal with it. Ben Mee trying to loop one over for Sharda. Newcastle have a man down, and now that it is in their possession, Sam Barrett is happy to stop the game. It is Joe Linton, and he has a nasty cut on the head. The minute that Sam Barrett saw the blood, the whistle was blown. He's not happy with the challenge. Newcastle players trying to calm him down.
I mean, there was a lot of movement in there from the Brentford players. We saw them go from one inside the 6-yard box. They all go from one inside the 6-yard box. They all then went to the penalty area. And I think it's this moment here with Collins and Joe Linton going up.
Oh, it's the landing, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's when Collins lands on Joe Linton rather than the initial contact with the arm.
I think there's a bit of contact there, but it's this one here. But, you know, he's completely looking at the ball there, Collins. He's gone up to win it. I don't think he's realised that Joe Linton was lying underneath him, but that's exactly what has done the damage. I understand why Joe Linton's so angry, but, you know, Collins can't do anything about that situation there.
Not nice to be on the end of it, but there didn't seem to be any intent. That's just from our view. You're welcome to see it differently, but Joe Linton clearly did.
Well, I can understand why he's not happy, because if I'm seeing, you know, the studs of another player coming down, land on my face, it's not good. But Bruno Guimaraes and Collins went for the challenge together.
Well, clearly in a bad way, and the staple gun is out. Newcastle manning right in the thick of things now that he's a midfield player rather than someone up top on the fringes of the play.
Oh, it was an incredible transformation when Eddie Howe took over to what he actually did when he played Joe Linton in that midfield role. And he's never looked back, because he's gone from being playing as number 9 that never really could get himself involved in games to being, you know, one of Newcastle's main stays in that midfield.
So Newcastle drop ball while he is sorted out on the touchline. Both managers with injury concerns at the start of this. Collins away. Onto the chest of Dan Burn. Well played by Hall, looking for Livramento. And in turn, Jacob Murphy. Guimaraes. Just out of the clutches of Isak, but he's got it back thanks to some loose Brentford play. Gordon. Well watched by Ruslev. No surprise we've seen an early goal in this game. Newcastle's last 3 matches have produced 16 goals in total. 9 scored by the Magpies, 7 conceded. Of course, with Brentford bagging the majority of those 7 just over a week ago. Burn with Joe Linton now back on the field. Forward by Cher. We've reached the midway point of the first half. Joe Linton scurrying around. We've reached the midway point of the first half. Joe Linton scurrying around. Collins for Ruslev. All the way back to Flecken. Carvalho. Wissa makes the darting run, and Fabian Cher knew he had to cut it out. And gets it back nicely from Murphy. Anthony Gordon set on his way, but he couldn't take it with him.
No, but he's acknowledging there the pass from Tonali, because he did see that moment. You know, Newcastle there just shown how well they can break out when they win the ball back from Brentford. And Carvalho's the man that I think for Brentford is the one that's just trying to find the pockets of space in behind the midfield of Newcastle to try and get in the ball. But as we saw, Cher was straight on top of him to win the ball back and not allowing him that space. So what they've got to try and do, Brentford, is when one defender like Cher comes out of that pocket of space, who's going to be the player that gets into them opportunities for Brentford and exploits the back four of Newcastle.
Thrown one by Keane Lewis Potter. He's played as a left back and a left wing back. And impressed in both roles, albeit slightly different roles within the same position on the pitch, if you like.
But neither position's phased him. He's just looked as comfortable in both.
Came to Brentford very much as an attacking wide player from Hull City. Capable of playing through the middle if needed to, or just tucked in behind. Tail of the tape so far. One shot on target, and it's gone in.
I just think that shows you obviously the trend of football that they showed against Leicester City in their last match, which is inside the opposition box. That they'll be happy for both sets of teams. There was 5 for Newcastle, 6 actually looked the more threatening.
Janelt moves it on.
In the more dominant, and they've continued the...
Schade joined by Roslev in the middle, waiting for the cross from Keane Lewis Potter, who just took it a little too far. Watched all the way by Murphy.
Well, we just talked about Lewis Potter and how good he is in the final third. You can just see why Murphy is such a favourite for Eddie Howe, because not only does he do the job in going forward, but it's the defensive job there, helping out Livramento. Livramento tucked more inside, waiting for the cross. More numbers defensively for Newcastle, and let Murphy be the guy that followed Lewis Potter into that area to do his defensive job.
He set up both Newcastle goals against Brentford in the last Premier League meeting. On a day which ended up being a frustrating one for the Magpies. Fouled by Roslev.
It's just a lovely little touch from Anthony Gordon. It's the quick feet. And Roslev didn't need to do that because he had Janelt just inside of him to sweep up and win the ball back. His captain there just saying there was no need to do that.
Anthony Gordon, the player of the year in these parts last season, his best ever scoring season in his career of 12 goals. Forward by Byrne. Towards nobody in the end. Shows how far he has come as an individual and Brentford as a collective, that he scored in Yeovil's victory against the Bees in the 2013 League One playoff final. Collective that he scored in Yeovil's victory against the Bees in the 2013 League One playoff final at Wembley. Yarmoliuk for Ben Mee. And now Collins.
You can just see the press from Newcastle United there. Anthony Gordon, Isak, Joe Linton, Tonali and Murphy all in the front field. We've just seen Cher come over the halfway line there to follow Carvalho, so they're looking to do the press. It's going to be a brave Brentford team that are going to have to be able to play through that and not lose the ball to Newcastle. There was a moment there where it played in Newcastle's hands as well, because when the press and Brentford go back to the goalkeeper Flecken, he did just go long. And then what that does, if you're going long up to Wissa when he's playing against Cher and Byrne, he's not going to get much joy there if you're not supporting him. So Brentford are going to have to try and play through the thirds.
Byrne for Lewis Hall. On to Gordon. For Hall again. Gordon trying to shake off Roslev, and he's managed to win a corner off him.
Well, that's going to be a good battle. We're going to keep an eye on this one. A bit of skill from Gordon. You can see the outside of the boot here. Roslev sticking with him, and then he thinks, you know, a little turn of pace there. Can I go on the outside? And Roslev doing good defending. Now, before kick-off, we watched Brentford. They were doing defensive set plays. They were set up with 4 zonal markers on the 6-yard box and 4 man markers. And then they were looking to counter-attack in the transition when the goalkeeper Flecken caught it. So something that either they haven't worked on during the week, or they've just wanted a quick refresher before kick-off.
In comes the corner, which was extremely well lofted. So much so it was too much for anyone.
Well, there's no need to defend corners when they're taken like that, because they're easy. No, I think why they'd done that prior to the game as well, when we'd had a look in the lineup with Collins changing as well, so the defensive unit might have just wanted to show Collins his positioning from the set plays that the players had played on, because Van der Berg had come out.
Cleared by Flecken. Up towards Schade. Whistler takes it on now. Roslev for company. Moliuk to Collins, who then lost it and had a grab at Gordon, and a costly one. It's a yellow card.
I don't think Collins can complain about that, because Anthony Gordon here, he anticipates it. He wins the press there from a bad touch for Collins, trying to play into Jan Alt, and he just thought, I can't let you go through on goal one-on-one here. I think we call that take one for the team.
Just a momentary lapse in concentration perhaps, which ends up requiring evasive action to be taken. Pumped forward by Hall towards the likes of Byrne and now Fabian Schär. Gets it back from Guimaraes. Trying to shake off Schade. Looking to pop it off for Tonali there. And that's a foul. Well, Thomas Frank's side have taken an interesting path to get here this season, winning away at Colchester United, their only away victory in any competition this season, before home victories over Leyton Orient and Sheffield Wednesday via penalty kicks. Newcastle United relied on spot kicks to win at Nottingham Forest in the second round, before a victory here in what should have been an away tie against AFC Wimbledon, but was switched here because of the damage to the AFC Wimbledon pitch during the flooding. And then in the last round, a 2-0 victory over Chelsea thanks to Alexander Isak and an own goal from Axel Disasi. Newcastle have done it the hard way, beating 2 Premier League teams. 2 teams high up in the Premier League, of course, with Chelsea and Nottingham Forest both impressing. Newcastle pressing on here to win another corner.
Well, again, it's Anthony Gordon making a nuisance of himself with the Brentford defenders there, chasing a lost cause and forcing the error and win the corner for Newcastle. Just see here, he puts the pressure on. I think Flecken actually gave the defender a call to say leave it. It came off his foot.
Lewis Hall, Gordon, Murphy's going to hit it. but it just took off and kept on going.
Well, he scored a goal against Leicester for Newcastle at the weekend from a set play. See, Newcastle had a similar setup there, but Brentford blocked the pass down to the byline, so they've come out and along the edge of the area. And it was Murphy that couldn't find the target there. But again, you can just see the mindset and the thinking behind Eddie Howe and his staff on them set plays, how important they are for Newcastle United.
And the manager was full of praise for Jacob Murphy in his performance, and of course his goals against Leicester. The manager was full of praise for Jacob Murphy in his performance, and of course his goals against Leicester.
Well, he's a great out for Newcastle, because there's another long ball here. Cher playing a great ball in behind Ruslev, and Collins is the man, central defender, that's got to come across and cover Anthony Gordon. A one-on-one situation. I'm expecting a little bit more from Anthony Gordon there. Can he drop the shoulder? Because you can see he's trying to get inside, but what he's doing, he's going inside to 4 players of Brentford. You've got to try and take him on the outside. And then what you do, you open the goal up and you take all them other defenders out of the game.
Lewis Hall caught there by Ruslev. Ruslev, who won his first cap for Denmark earlier on this season.
See there, it's late. Studs down the back of the Achilles, never nice.
You made the point about Lewis Hall that perhaps last season when he was here on loan, it didn't quite click, it wasn't quite working for him. This season has been a totally different case.
Yeah, I mean, he's obviously worked at his fitness, his physicality, but I think it's the understanding of defending paramount first, because he got exposed a few times in his matches for Newcastle last season. He's obviously sorted out his position and his defensive attributes, but going forward as well, when he knows when and where to do it now. He's got an understanding where to do it now. He's got an understanding of where the ball is, where the players are positioned, and when he's allowed to have that freedom to go forward and when you can't afford to do it. So his whole overall game has improved all round.
Here's Murphy. Plenty of options in the middle, and support backing him up as well from Livramento and Guimaraes. Tonali. Guimaraes stepping into the box and then maybe leaving the foot in. There's a yellow card coming his way. Brentford want more than that, by the looks of the complaints towards Sam Barrett.
I think Sam Barrett's perfectly positioned to realise what has happened. There was no hesitation to go straight for the yellow card. And he's not going to be changing his mind for the players. Obviously protesting and saying it was a bit more. He knew exactly what he was going for there. Bruno Guimaraes, the ball had just gone away from him.
Tell you what though, when he went to the back...
The ball had just gone away from him.
Tell you what though, when he went to the back pocket there, I think Bruno Guimaraes wasn't aware he was going for a pen, thinking he might be going for a different coloured card.
We'll just see here. I mean, it's a lovely give and go, but then it's just a coming together and a stand on the foot. You can see it's late on me, but I don't think they're going to give anything more. That was a correct decision.
Just got a nudge on his way through, which put him off balance as well, which might be what got him out of a bit more trouble. All of a sudden, we've got about 7 minutes left in this first half. First half which has had plenty going on, but not that many clear-cut opportunities for goals.
Well, I think out of the two managers, Eddie Howe will be the manager that's more impressed with his side's performance, because they've got the press right at more times than Brentford have. Brentford have sat in and give Newcastle the times. Then Brentford have sat in and give Newcastle the ball and the possession when Newcastle being that mid-third, and obviously they've got the goal behind them. I think Brentford's only real threat has come from the long throw from Pinnock in a corner. So at this moment in time, Eddie Howe will be delighted with the way his team have performed in this first half.
Murphy's throw for Tino Livramento. Tonali back to Martin Dubravka. We've got a problem here for Joelinton, who has been in the wars already tonight. I wonder whether this pause in play is due to the wounds just reopening a little bit, perhaps. There's Sandro Tonali, the goal scorer, Michael, and he's been all over the place in a good way.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, looking at his touch map here, you can see he plays in that central midfield. He's allowed license to go forward and join in the attack, we saw with the goal, but also coming and dropping in when Newcastle have possession of the ball, looking to get on. You can see there, he's obviously, these touches are all over the field, so it's a good sign for Newcastle, because I think, you know, him, Bruno Guimaraes and Joelinton have dominated that midfield in this match today, and that touch map just shows how important he has been for Newcastle United. But the one touch that is meaningful is the one that hit the back of the net.
Well, Thomas Frank has called over his troops for some words, and when he led Brentford to the League Cup semi-final in 2020-2021, there was still a Championship side, remarkably. It was the club's first major cup semi-final, and they knocked 4 Premier League teams out to get there. Still a Championship side, remarkably. It was the club's first major cup semi-final, and they knocked 4 Premier League teams out to get there. Of course, the club in the last few seasons has come on a fair old way under his stewardship. Joelinton might require a wardrobe change here.
See there, Eddie Howe just discussing the touch map there with Tonali. Just saying plenty more of that, please.
Just discussing Michael Bridges' comments. He just has to have a little bit of time on the sidelines, of course, Joelinton. Martin Dubravka trying to use up that time as best. Up towards Isak. Plenty of the ball in the midfield for Newcastle United. Not too much up towards Alexander Isak, though, in the first half, and certainly none really in the other direction towards Johan Wissa. Joelinton is back on and hastily trying to join the attacking action. Up and away from Ayer.
You can see there, Isak, you've just mentioned him. He's just given an applause there to Murphy for that delivery in there. So he's got a lot to deal with, you know. There's 3 centre-halves, Collins, Ayer and me, who were all trying to isolate Isak, and obviously that moment there, it was Ayer that gets the ball away defensively for Brentford. But Anthony Gordon in the midfield 3 of Newcastle, along with Murphy, they've been...
Joelinton down from the corner, it's Tonali! It's him again! What a night he's having in black and white, and what a night Newcastle United are having too. On the cusp of half-time, they have breathing space and a tight grip on the game.
Well, once again, it's a lovely finish from Tonali, and it's a well-worked corner from Newcastle United. I just had a look at the Brentford players' reaction there. They all ran to the referee to suggest that there'd been some form of blocking here. So you can see Joelinton there on Wissa takes him away from that penalty spot area along with Dan Burn. And what they do, they create that space there. You can just see that's that space that they're trying to exploit, and Tonali's the man that goes in there. And the technique and the timing of the volley once again, I mean, he showed it from the striking when I said he put a little bit of bend on the ball. And then that there, the technique, the timing, the little inside now volley, it's just about using the pace of the ball, not trying to smash it as hard as he can, and just caressing it into the back of the net. But again, a well-worked set play from Newcastle United. He's got Thomas Frank now thinking it's an uphill battle, away from home, 2-0 down, and the way forward promising.
And now Newcastle United can drive on looking for number 3. Touch from Schade, picked up by Guimaraes.
And that's the thing in this competition with no VAR. That would have been looked at, you know what I mean, and scrutinised. Did Joe Linton there foul Wissa in the lead up to that goal? But that's been taken away from this, so you've just got to admire the quality and the set play routine from Newcastle United there. And now they've got another big opportunity here from a wide area.
Well, it's the first time Sandro Tonali scored twice in a game since he was playing for AC Milan. Well, it's the first time Sandro Tonali scored twice in a game since he was playing for AC Milan, who got a brace in a 3-1 win in the league at Verona in May of 2022. So far, he is the man of the moment. In from Hall. Joe Linton's there, and the flag was raised for offside. Six minutes to be added on at least here at the end of the first half. Yellow card coming out here for Tino Livramento.
Annoyed that he's being given the yellow card, but when he looks back, there's nothing.
Yellow card coming out here for Tino Livramento.
Additional minutes to be added.
And I think he just had a little bit of a slip there before he actually made the impact.
Well, we'll start the added time with a Brentford free kick. Keane Lewis Potter back up and ready to take alongside Vitali Janelt. Organisation for Dubravka to do here. He hasn't had much to be concerned with in this first half. It is Keane Lewis Potter. And it was never quite coming down for him enough.
Well, they just used the tall timber in Collins and Aya in that back post area. It looked like they were going to play the little dink pass into the back post. But obviously Lewis Potter had other ideas. He saw the wall, he assessed it. And that man there, Eddie Howard, a very interesting half-time team talk, because he'll be asking so much more from this man Tonali to get on the ball after we saw his first half performance with his touches all over the field, the 2 goals that he's produced. And Thomas Frank now, he's got a huge half-time team talk with his players.
Wissa is down here with a bump to the head. Fair few bumps and bruises in this first half.
I said, when that ball goes into him, you know, he's always got either Shea or Dan Burn making that aerial challenge on him.
Well, while Wissa gets looked at, let's have a look at the second of Sandro Tonali's goals tonight.
Well, again, the side touch there. I said about you don't have to blast it, you've just got to make sure you make some good contact on there. And the other issue that he had there was Wissa coming to try and put pressure on him, so he's got that to deal with as well. Just on his left-hand side, he used his arm so well just to keep him out of the situation. And Tonali just showing his quality.
Here's Joe Linton. No way past Collins. Hall. That'll be Flecken's ball. Tonali. Murphy. Guimaraes, and again. Beautifully done between Guimaraes and Tonali, and Murphy! So nearly 3. So nearly a real problem for Brentford.
Well, it was an incredible move from Newcastle United. The movement here goes into Bruno Guimaraes to Tonali, the little give and goes. And then what they do, they recycle the ball on the edge of the area and just keep an eye on the save from Flecken. Oh, has it hit the upright? Well, I take it back. I was going to credit the goalkeeper there, Flecken. Murphy doing everything right, getting his body over the top of the ball, keeping it down because he missed the target earlier in this game. He had 2 missed opportunities early against Leicester as well. But again, it was Bruno Guimaraes and Tonali, that midfield of Newcastle, just causing the problem. Get a hold of them.
Well, Brentford, I think, just want the half-time whistle here, because Newcastle United are starting to really build something. Joe Linton. Guimaraes ahead of him. He's told to shoot by the majority, and Murphy's offside. I think he was expecting Joe Linton to pull the trigger.
Yeah, he's just having a go there, Murphy, at Joe Linton, because he did ask for him a little bit earlier in that pass, because he was trying his hardest, Murphy, to stay on side. He was looking right across the line. Joe Linton just delivered the ball too late there. Joe Linton just delivered the ball too late there.
Roslev hounded by Gordon. Wissa. Ball taken off him by Tonali. Yarmolyuk to Janelt. And that is half-time. And at the break, it's all going very nicely for Newcastle United and Sandro Tonali. Those in black and white have really enjoyed themselves in the first half. And he in particular has popped up to put Brentford to the sword. A really good brace from Newcastle United's number 8 to put Brentford to the sword. A really good brace from Newcastle United's number 8 has put them in pole position to qualify for the semi-finals here. Brentford with it all to do with the second half on the horizon. It's Newcastle United 2, Brentford 0.
The Carabao Cup quarter-final 2-0 to Newcastle United. Latest scores from the other games tonight: Arsenal 0, Crystal Palace 1, Southampton 0, Liverpool 2. Don't forget, tonight a result must be achieved.
Well, we're just waiting for the two sides to come back out here at St James's Park. We've been watching some of the substitutes go through their warm-up routines and just wondering how things might change if changes are made. Have various options at Thomas Frank's disposal. The most eye-catching, of course, because of the season he's had so far, is Brian Mbeumo. He's already into double figures for goals this season. We might well see him at some stage. Newcastle United have the likes of Miguel Almiron, Joe Willock, who's been going through his paces during the course of the break. Harvey Barnes as well, who recently turned 27 and has a good record against Brentford, having scored 4 times against them. The Bees are back out and will look for a fast start, you would imagine, to this second half.
Well, they've got to do something to get back in this game, David, without a shadow of a doubt. And no, when I just looked at this, trying to find Shorter and Wissa, but they're getting that with Newcastle pressing so well. When the back 3 centre-halves have got it, and they're getting aerially dominated by Byrne and Shea. So when you talked about Mbeumo there, he's a big option for Colin Dyer and me in the press so well. In the midfield, obviously, in Bruno Guimaraes, Joe Linton. Midfield, obviously, in Bruno Guimaraes, Joe Linton, Tonali, match up with the Brentford midfield 3. There's only one ball that Brentford players have got, and that is actually wanting to hold the ball up, but they need to try something, because Shorter's drifting more into the midfield and he's leaving Wissa very, very isolated. So there'll be a lot of notes on that notepad. He'll be going through his checklist with his staff at half-time. He'll have said what he's had to say, and he'll be monitoring what goes on second half, so he'll have an idea. And as for Eddie Howe, Just think they've got it absolutely spot on in that first half.
Yeah, of course, with no Ivan Toney these days, and with Igor Thiago working his way back to fitness, there's no obvious target man. Ivan Toney these days, and with Igor Thiago working his way back to fitness, there's no obvious target man for Brentford to look to from the off. Wisran and Burmo, the two who've been charged with playing up top of late, and my oh my, have they done a good job of it, by the way. But something needs to happen from Brentford's point of view here to turn the tide in this game. Otherwise, it's Newcastle United in the final four. There is going to be a change for the hosts before we get into the second half, and as we suspected, it is Joe Willock who's going to come on and replace Joe Linton.
Substitution for Newcastle United, coming off number 7, Joe Linton.
We'll go back to the injury that Joe Linton sustained in that first half, when there was a couple of moments where he felt his foot, but he had that injury on his face from the corner. With injury that Joe Linton sustained in that first half, when there was a couple of moments where he felt his foot, but he had that injury on his face from the corner, with Collins as stud. So Willock will come in for a like-for-like position.
So we're set fair for part two. 2-0 Newcastle lead. This man, Sandro Tonali, with both of them. He's never scored a senior hat-trick before. Newcastle United's last League Cup hat-trick was scored against Brentford. Craig Bellamy hitting a treble in a round 2 victory over Brentford by 4-1. September 2001. Let's see what the second half brings us here. Brentford on the attack, but now Newcastle looking to go in the other direction. But we saw from the off there what we expect to see, really, and that's Brentford on the front foot. Forward here to Gordon.
They've got to. Thomas Frank would have said we need to start to press a little bit high.
Him, Livramento picks it up, but then overruns it.
Engage Newcastle. I mean, they're still going to be brave and try and play it out, but when this ball goes in this long, they're the moment.
But then overruns it.
Moments there, like you're giving the ball straight away back to Newcastle United. You might be under a bit of pressure, but can you have the courage to play forward passes to players at some time door marked? You get a little bounce pass, then you go to the next player. And if you're going to go long, you've got to have willing runners in behind the Newcastle line, which they just gifted the ball back to Newcastle there.
Guimaraes looking for Isak, who was looking to peel away. Bizarrely, Newcastle United have scored 6 goals in the EFL Cup this season. They've all come in the first halves of matches. In the second halves of games, they've had 22. In the second halves of games, they've had 22 shots and haven't scored at all. So they'll want to break that trend in this second half to make this one safe.
Maybe you should have been in the dressing room for Brentford and done Thomas Frank a favour and give that opportunity out. That does give the opposition courage.
I think he's got better people in that regard. Klaus Norgard, Keith Andrews and all the rest of them.
Yeah, you're right. Just stay here, David.
Klaus Norgard and Thomas Frank just going through the options at their disposal.
I think one of the big issues that they'll be looking at is how they can try and get an overload in that midfield. Because, like I say, the Newcastle midfield three, Guimaraes, Tonali and now Willock, it's been so dominant and haven't given Brentford any opportunities central. They've had to get all their opportunity area with Lewis Potter.
Guimaraes. Now Murphy. Newcastle have played themselves into trouble here. Fabian Schär just rescuing the corner, though. No Ethan Pinnock to launch it long, of course, after his departure in the first half. In from Schade. Byrne was rising. Collins there as well, and Wisser it was who tried to improvise.
Thank you for
Shorter here, just showing how much power and strength in that technique of a throw there. That's nearly on the penalty spot for Collins. And I said, if you're going to defend this, you must not allow the first Brentford player to get the flick on. He out jumps Byrne there. And it's Wissa with the overhead attempt. He just couldn't get the timing right there, but a threat there for Brentford early on this second half.
We must tip our cap as well to Johan Wissa, who in the last 17 Premier League starts, he scored 13 Premier League goals. It's actually now only one short of Ivan Toney's club record of 36 Premier League goals for Brentford. Here's Keane Lewis-Potter, back for Ben Mee. Collins was hurried into the ball, which means that Newcastle United have possession back. That's been the way, really, of the game in large parts, hasn't it, in the middle of the park, that the press has got the results for the home side.
And I mentioned how Wissa has been up top on his own and quite isolated at times, because Brentford tried to get the overload with Shorter dropping into that midfield to help out Janelt in there. But there's another dropping into that midfield to help out Janelt in there. But there's another way that can try and get it when you've got Isak playing up top by himself and you've got Collins and Ben Mee either side of Aya. One of them centre-halves can be courageous and drive the ball out into that midfield area. And then what it does is, at some point, a midfield of Newcastle's got to engage. And then it releases a midfielder of Brentford. But they haven't tried that.
Livramento trying to put the pressure on Lewis-Potter here. Ball is out and over the line, and it's a Brentford ball. Neither of these sides have ever won this particular competition, although Newcastle have come close twice. Runners up to Manchester City in 1976 under the stewardship of Gordon Lee, and also the season before last under Eddie Howe, losing to Manchester United. That final was their first League Cup final in 47 years. Their first domestic final since 1999, when, of course, Manchester United prospered against them on their way to the treble in the FA Cup final. A bump. A bump there for both Lewis Hall and Kevin Schade.
Just ankles coming together. You mentioned Hall, how he's improved under Newcastle again there. He left Ruslev out wide and he saw the more of a threat from the drop in Shorter, so he's followed him in there. I mean, he's given a free kick away, but again, it's just recognising when and where to go and make them challenges, and he's positioning.
Forward by Janelt. Ben Mee is up there. Collins trying to back in, and it was scooped by Ben Mee. Off balance and way off target. In moments like this, you not only look to your bench, you look to your characters, you look to body language, don't you? To try and get more out of your team. Wouldn't quite roll enough for Jacob Murphy there. Ben Mee saw to that. Now Wissa is released with a few options up with him. Keane Lewis-Potter backing him up here. Janelt. Easy pickings for Dan Byrne. Anthony Gordon wins out. Guimaraes.
That's very experienced by the Newcastle captain there, because that Newcastle under a bit of pressure there. Brentford playing some good football. Just see them. They played their way through trouble. Newcastle win the ball back here, and Bruno Guimaraes, he just drops his shoulder. As soon as he feels contact, he goes down just to relieve the pressure and buy a free kick for Newcastle. But I think you mentioned about Thomas Frank there. You learn about the characteristics of some of your players when you're not having the best of games. You're 2-0 down the second half. If you're looking for players that in that moment where they were playing, they're happy to take the passes under pressure from Newcastle players. In the will and run there from Wissa in behind Newcastle, they've got to try and stretch the back four of Newcastle to create more space for the midfielders to be able to play.
Closing in on 10 minutes played in the second half. Not an awful lot has changed for Brentford compared to the first. Livramento. Willock ahead of him, and Isak as well. He looks to Hall and now to Gordon. Isak swerving away from the challengers neatly. Wanted a free kick, a feet.
Well, I think this second half's all about game management for Newcastle United as well, the players, Eddie Howe and the staff, because obviously didn't change the lineup. Second game with this team, we've just seen one substitution in Willock. In a big game against Ipswich at the weekend. Will he go 3 games in a row with the same team? It'll be interesting to see what the changes are going to be and will they come.
Gordon just taken off his toes. And they're on with it quickly. Into the middle towards Bruno Guimaraes. Willock for Gordon. Guimaraes again. Now Tonali. Here goes Willock. On and on and on. Squeeze their opponents back.
Good position, you're 2-0 up.
They hit a Brentford body on the way through. Appeals for hands mainly from the stand.
Quite happy to go back to the goalkeeper, allow the Brentford players to then come out of their positions. It creates more space. Again, that top keeper, allow the Brentford players to then come out of their positions. It creates more space for Newcastle to exploit. Bravka from one end of the field, the goalkeeper straight up to the other end, and it's Willock driving at the heart of Brentford there. You can see he's actually claiming, he puts his hand up saying that Ben Mee actually did use his arm. I think VR, we would have seen a different decision given. Ben Mee just milking it, saying it hit him in the chest there.
Corner towards Gordon. It's beautifully done. It's Hall. Isak was there. And in the end, they just got in each other's way.
Well, once again, it's a set play. Well worked from Newcastle United, causing all sorts of problems for the Brentford setup here. The little short corner, the little reverse pass, and if you just keep an eye on Tonali in the penalty spot, I think Isak actually gets in the way because that was going to fall to Tonali there. So Isak did the defending. Here's another look at the so-called handball. I don't think Ben Mee can do much about that. He tried to get his arm out the way. Correct decision once again.
Header away by Ayer. Lewis Potter releasing Carvalho here. And now Newcastle have it. Immediately the volume is raised. Anthony Gordon goes on and just can't bend it enough to find the far corner. You feel one more goal for Newcastle United here and the game is done. It may already be so.
Well, it was the quick transition once again. See the pass going into Anthony Gordon. What he's trying to do there, he's just trying to use Ayer to blindside Flecken. Oh, sorry, it's actually Collins there. So he's just dropping the shoulder inside and then he's looking for that far corner. He's so dangerous, Anthony Gordon, not only because of his pace, but he's also that awareness in the little drop of the shoulder. He's so quick.
Looks like we're going to see Mikkel Damsgaard in a moment for Brentford. We're heading towards that 60-minute mark where many of the managers look at how things are going and make personnel changes. Fabian Schär. Livramento. Fabian Schär. Livramento. He looks to Murphy. Guimaraes. Hall, and now Gordon. Murphy. Guimaraes to Murphy again. Very nearly a thing of beauty from those in black and white.
It was lovely possession by Newcastle United, and very patient, because Brentford have got their numbers back. All 11 players are back behind the ball when they switched that ball from left to right. And then it was Murphy that saw the opportunity to go inside to Bruno Guimaraes. The little flick in the setup for Murphy, and he just caught an eye of that bottom corner. And he's got to do better. He's got to make sure that Flecken makes a save, or he gets that on target. Because it was a big question mark against West Ham when Newcastle played them. They had a back four set at West Ham, and Souček was the midfielder that dropped in when Newcastle had possession to make a back five. And now against Leicester, back four, they showed that they totally dominated and outplayed Leicester in every department. So I was going to be interested to see how Newcastle handled the back five here of Brentford and the midfield four. And once again, they've just showed when they're patient build-up, they're quite happy to do that. And then when they recognise the opportunity, as we saw there, they can create goal-scoring opportunities. So it's the kind of reaction Eddie Howe's been after from his players.
And here come the changes from Thomas Frank. No surprise that Mbeumo and Damsgaard have been called for. Carvalho, one of those to leave. Janelt is the other one. He was initially called for and then wasn't sure if it was actually he who was going to be replaced.
Fabio Carvalho to be replaced by 19 Brian Mbeumo. Also coming off for Brentford, number 27 Vitaly Janelt to be replaced by number 24 Mikkel Damsgaard.
Two players I admire a lot. I mean, Damsgaard, the midfielder, he'll be looking to get on the ball, and I think if Brentford want to get anything out of this game, they've got to try and use him.
Here's Ben Mee from the nod down from Collins. Well, Mikkel Damsgaard has been involved in 7 goals in the Premier League in his last 10 appearances, scoring a couple and setting up a further 5. And Brian Mbeumo has been banging them in for fun this season. When you bear in mind he scored 9 goals in the whole of last season, he's already got 10. And it's not Christmas Day yet.
Well, they're definitely 2 impact players. You just mentioned the stats there. The credentials will be looking to try and get something. So again, it's another question that Newcastle are going to be asked, and can they find the answers to try and nullify the 2 of them and keep control of this game. I'm still interested to see if Eddie Howe will go to his bench and make changes after not making any change in the last 2 matches for this group of players.
Well, that's a little bit short, is it? Well, Mark Flecken is adept with his feet, and his strong starting position bailed out Brentford there.
He was the calmest man inside St James's Park there. He wasn't happy, but he made it look effortless.
Calm with his feet, but annoyed
at his fullback.
Yeah. just hasn't got going for Brentford tonight. But as we know in football, a goal can change an awful lot, not just literally but mentally as well. Newcastle very much leading the way in terms of the shot count tonight.
Well, it's the ones that count is the ones that hit the target, and they're the two that Newcastle have made hit the back of the net. They've been clinical, and it's been...
Substitution for Newcastle. Coming off number 23, Jacob Murphy.
Jacob Murphy will make way. Another strong hour from him in Newcastle colours. The bad news for Brentford is that his replacement is Harvey Barnes, who scored 4 times in 8 games against them, including in the 6-goal thriller 11 days or so ago. Scored for Newcastle, Leicester City and West Bromwich Albion against Brentford in his career. Offside, the verdict. It's bizarre, isn't it, how Brentford have the most home points in the Premier League this season and the joint worst away record in the top flight, with just a point on their travels. I covered that game. It was at Everton, a goalless draw. Everton, a goalless draw. Here's Barnes, trying to slide it through towards Bruno Guimaraes. Schade, shadowed by Tonali.
Once again, Tonali's shown not only can he do an offensive job for his team in putting the ball in the back of the net, but they're showing he's defensive. He doesn't mind chasing back, helping out. That's what he's in there for. I think that's where Newcastle have dominated. I think they've been very good in the possession, as we've seen. They've been clinical, but also just the overall work rate from them with the press. They haven't given Brentford any opportunities to play through them in the central positions. They've always had to try and find Lewis Potter on this left-hand side when they've shuffled into that system, and Newcastle have answered all the questions so far.
Here's Burmo as the flag stays down. Wissa stays down.
No, good. He'd be fortunate that he didn't actually cast Lewis Potter there, otherwise that's a penalty. We've got to credit Dubravka. He hasn't had to do much in this game, but there again, once he's called upon, it can get quite lonely there at the back for the goalkeepers, producing a huge save.
There he is again, swatting that away from the Damsgaard corner. Tonali wins it back. And now the gallop from Hall and from Willock. Nicely done. The strike wasn't bad either, it was just straight at Mark Flecken, which he was grateful for.
Well, from one goalkeeper in Dubravka punching the ball out, setting Newcastle on their way, to Willock dancing through the Brentford defence. I think Flecken would have been delighted that he had that shot straight at him.
Alexander Isak going close on that occasion. Corner ball Newcastle. The effort just before from Joe Willock, of course, he scored Newcastle's fastest ever League Cup goal at Nottingham Forest at the end of August after just 18 seconds. He started this whole ball rolling for the Magpies.
Well, this is where Newcastle have been so dangerous tonight in their set plays. They've played some short corners, they've had overloads, and now this one going right in on top of Flecken. You can tell by all the players inside.
In from Gordon. Tonali, hat-trick hunting. Lewis Hall wants to go himself. Oh, and it's a brilliant stop. Bruno Guimaraes, unselfish. beautifully done, and that should do it for Newcastle United. Everything is coming together nicely for those in black and white, leaving Brentford's cup dreams in tatters.
I've just been saying how dangerous Newcastle have been from set plays. I don't think they planned this one. Well, I tell you what, it's found the back of the net, and it was down to Tonali and Hall who were causing the problems. Got the shot off. So you just see here, Flecken there, he's quite isolated. He can't come out and collect that one. It falls to Tonali and Hall. They have a few attempts here, but just watch how selfless the captain of Newcastle is, because Bruno Guimaraes there sets up Cher for an easy tap in. And I love the celebration, because what Cher did, he recognised straight away. He ran straight over to Bruno Guimaraes. And I love the celebration, because what Cher did, he recognised straight away. He ran straight over to Bruno Guimaraes. They celebrated, but he showed everybody in the Gallagher end of Newcastle that it's all about Bruno, the captain. And there's nothing Flecken can do there, because he's being caught out by the quality of Bruno Guimaraes.
Well, as goal-scoring centre-halves go, Fabian Cher is doing the business. That's 4 for the season now for him. Scored an absolute beauty against Liverpool here not so long ago in that 3-3 epic, as Wisser is high and wide. And at the time when Fabian Cher squeezed that ball in after Queven Keller had left the ball, we weren't totally aware of how good a finish that one was. This one was a lot more simple thanks to Bruno Guimaraes.
You've still got to find the back of the net.
It's a fair old way back to the capital for those who have travelled, if they indeed have travelled all the way from the capital. Maybe some relatively locals in there, but those who have made the trip will have a fair old way back and will be disappointed unless something monumental happens in the final 19 minutes plus added time here.
I think what that third goal does for Eddie Howe and Newcastle United, it gives them, as the manager, the luxury of being able to make changes now, knowing that they've got the game against Ipswich coming up. You're 3-0 up, you might as well go at the bench and just give some players a rest.
Anthony Gordon back there to keep Kevin Schade quiet. Mark Flecken will come out to meet this one. Shows his ability with his feet. He showed his ability with his hands moments ago to stop the first strike, but once Guimaraes and Cher were there to double up on him, there was only ever going to be one side profiting from that. Here's Mbeumo. Wisser is there, but couldn't get above it enough to make any difference.
Well, it's a good combination play there between Mbeumo and Wisser. Like you say, he just couldn't get his header on target. Mbeumo and Wisser. Like you say, he just couldn't get his header on target. And Newcastle once again set up to play out here. You see Schade there and Wisser on the edge of the area, threatening Newcastle United with the play out.
We're going to see another Brentford change in a moment. Paris Magoma is poised. In from Roslev. Keane Lewis Potter's after it. So is Livramento. Both sides want the ball, and it's Newcastle United's. We're going to see Jayden Magoma in a moment too.
Substitution for Brentford. Coming off, number 7, Kevin Schade
makes way.
By number 32, Paris Magoma.
It's a third Brentford appearance for Paris Magoma.
Also coming off for Brentford, number 23, Keane Lewis Potter.
Magoma.
Also coming off for Brentford, number 23, Keane Lewis Potter, to be replaced by number 21,
Lewis Potter departs. Jayden Magoma, the 18-year-old, comes on for the final 18 minutes or so.
Well, if they follow the same trend as Brentford have tried to play, with Lewis Potter getting on the ball, I think Magoma on this left-hand side is going to see a lot of the ball. He's going to get himself involved in some of the action.
Oh, Isak not on the same wavelength there as Joe Willock. Foul given against Hall. Back to Flecken. Here's Mbermo. Barring an almighty comeback, Brentford will turn their attention to Nottingham Forest at home. On Saturday, before a trip to Brighton the day after Boxing Day. Magoma back to Flecken for a Brentford side who face Arsenal at home on New Year's Day. Newcastle United have Ipswich on Saturday, Aston Villa here on Boxing Day, and a trip to Old Trafford to close off 2024. And then it's Tottenham away before their thoughts turn to FA Cup action.
Well, not many teams have had a lot of success against Brentford when they played at home this season. They've been so dominant, but away from home has been the massive issue.
Barnes. Back for Tonali. How St James's Park would love a hat-trick from their number 8. Barnes. Clipped right into the mix and dealt with by Collins. It had to be. Of breathing space, and therefore changes can be made. Alexander Isak, who before tonight had scored 7 goals in his last 9 games, is given the last quarter of an hour or so off. Will Osula comes on for a rare appearance, his 8th in Newcastle United colours.
And another substitution for Newcastle coming off number 10,
Anthony Gordon and Lewis Hall replaced by games. Is given the last quarter of an hour or so off. Will Osula comes on for a rare appearance, his 8th in Newcastle United colours.
And another substitution for Newcastle coming off number 10,
Anthony Gordon and Lewis Hall replaced by Miguel Almiron and Kieran Trippier. So the new faces in the mix for a Newcastle United corner here. In from Guimaraes. Flecken to the fore. Tonali! And everyone thought that was the moment for him. Paris Magoma thought otherwise.
Well, I just had a message off one of my ex-colleagues saying the perfect hat-trick is normally a left foot, a right foot and a header. Do you get one if it's the outside of the boot, the inside of the boot, and then through the laces on the same foot? Now, he almost did it here because he's all trying to get his laces through that.
I think for Tonali and Newcastle now, any hat-trick is a perfect one. Here's Almiron. Fabian Schär trying to keep it in. Here's Almiron. Fabian Schär trying to keep it alive in any which way. Anthony Gordon has, I think, enjoyed his walk around the pitch as he's come off, serenaded as he goes.
Yeah, well, the ovation he got at St James's Park there as he walked around the ground singing his name, he would have enjoyed that moment, and it was well deserved because he's, you know, Once again, his performance levels with the ball and without the ball have been magnificent for Newcastle.
Out it goes, despite Magoma's best efforts. Trippier back to Tonali. Trippier back to Tonali. Almiron. Roslev away towards Collins, who suddenly realised he had two to deal with. Willock. Almiron. Guimaraes for Trippier. Barnes.
Once again, you can see Brentford, the amount of players they have back there. Newcastle just keeping the ball. They'll recycle it, they'll go from right to left. They've drawn a few of the players of Brentford out, and once the players come out, you can see there the first thought is, can I get the pass forward, the first touch.
In by Barnes. Guimaraes the closest to it. William Osula just acknowledging his chant from the terraces to the tune of Tequila. Here's Damsgaard trying to get Brentford going. Here's Damsgaard trying to get Brentford going. Magoma takes it on. And Burmo waiting. Wissa here as well. It's towards Burmo. If he had his time again, he might have gone the other way.
I think you're right, David. I think he would like to have opened himself up on the right-hand side there, but I mentioned Damsgaard coming on, and I just like what he's all about, because he gets on the front foot, he plays the passes forward. Even if he can't see them, he has a little glance around the corner, and he plays blind passes, but he's playing them because he's actually taking a picture before he plays that pass. So Damsgaard's given them something going forward finally in the Brentford midfield, but it's obviously just a little bit too late.
Willock. Barnes. Oh! Very nearly. And they will keep on plugging away with Guimaraes. Every time anyone in black and white gets the ball near the box now, the majority around the ground are instructing them to shoot.
Well, every pass now, it's not a cheer or an ole, it's just shoot.
Fabian Schär striding on, looking for Almiron. And Tonali, so many bodies in the way, it was unlikely to find its route through to goal. Dubravka out to join in.
Just have a look here at Barnes' shot again. He goes low and hard across the greasy surface, and Flecken was scrambling. It was the upright that saved Brentford then, but Harvey Barnes again showing the technique.
That was out before it came back in. Terrific effort that from Harvey Barnes, smacking against the woodwork, and Sandro Tonali going close again as well.
Yeah, you can just see plants his foot, he keeps his body over the ball, he drives it low and hard. And like I said about this Grissy service, it's a goalkeeper's nightmare. And Flecken would have looked around the corner there, saw the ball ricocheting away and been very thankful. And he would have fancied his chances against Brentford because of them stats you mentioned before. Whenever he plays against them, Harvey Barnes always seems to produce.
Magoma wins the corner off Trippier. Damsgaard's corner, and Burmo's come short to play. Instead it goes into the mix. Cleared as far as Mburmo. Cleared as far as Mburmo. Damsgaard again. Whipping it over. Ben Mee was there. Found himself all alone, but couldn't find a target.
I think it's all about the delivery into the area there for Ben Mee. See, as the ball comes back to Damsgaard, opens his body up, gets the cross in, and that's a great delivery. And it's just basically saying, it's put in that area to say, you go and attack me. And Ben Mee wasn't going to disappoint, and to actually out-jump Dan Burn to get the time, and he'd be disappointed he hasn't hit the target.
Burma managed to kill the ball enough to keep it, and then keep it moving. Here's Mburmo again onto Roslev. Plenty queuing up to nod it in. And Fabian Schär got the touch away. Let's just tell you of one final score from the Carabao Cup quarter-final tonight. Arsenal are into the semi-finals thanks to a Gabriel Jesus hat-trick. They've beaten Crystal Palace by 3-2. Into a very crowded 6-yard box it goes, and wellied away by Newcastle United.
I think Jesus' only other goal came in the EFL Cup as well this season.
Palace had taken a 4th-minute lead through Jean-Philippe Mateta in that game, but Mikel Arteta's side have got the job done. Liverpool leading 2-1 at Southampton. Goals from Darwin Núñez and Harvey Elliott. Cameron Archer with the response. Tottenham-Manchester United is tomorrow night, the final of the 4 quarter-finals, and the draw for the semi-finals is after that game has been concluded. Unless we get a quite incredible 3.5 minutes plus added time, it will be Newcastle United into the semi-finals.
Yeah, I just think all round. It's been a professional performance. Eddie Howe will be delighted with the way his team have executed the game plan, with the ball, without the ball.
But not finding a way past Dubravka.
The set plays have been spot on.
Who is determined to hold on to his clean sheets.
Midfield battle. Midfield battle. Well, it was a break here from the midfield, and Burmo just linking up here with Wissa. He's got the pace on Schär. I'm thinking, what are you going to do? Have you got a few things in your mind? You could knock it past him, or you're going to try and dink him. And obviously Dubravka there, he came out, he narrowed down the angles, and he got his position absolutely spot on there once again for Newcastle.
On we go. Magoma. Trippier went down too easily in Sam Barrett's eyes.
It's only really since Damsgaard come on for Brentford that they've really looked a lot more of a threat. When he's got the ball in that midfield, he's also been playing the passes through, he's been the link-up. I think they were missing somebody like that in the first half.
Well, Thomas Frank was frustrated in the build-up to this at playing 3 games in 6 days. He says other sides are playing 3 games in 8 or 9 days. And as a result of that, perhaps felt he needed to change things up, freshen things up in terms of player involvement. Livramento trying to escape from Mbermo. Final minute of the 90. Brentford pressing for a consolation. It will be no more than that now. And Trippier doesn't want that on his footballing watch. Willock trying to skip past Ben Mee. Just ran into him.
It's called experienced defending from Ben Mee.
Well, just not enough produced in the end by Brentford tonight to really put Newcastle on the back foot or damage them in any way. The fourth produced in the end by Brentford tonight to really put Newcastle on the back foot or damage them in any way.
The fourth official has indicated a minimum of 3 minutes of additional
Here's
time.
Mbermo looking for Wissa, and there is a crumb of comfort for Brentford at the end. No surprise that Johan Wissa is the man to provide it.
Well, it's this midfield again. Damsgaard here, straight away. He releases a slip pass between Dan Burn and Livramento. And Mbermo recognises that Wissa's in a central position. He's got the legs on Shaw. And the third attempt against Dubravka, he's found the back of the net. It's too little, too late. I feel for Brentford. But it would have been interesting had they brought Damsgaard on a lot earlier, had he started this game, because he's been the real threat for Brentford since he's come on. And he's the only one that has really taken it to Newcastle.
Opportunity that just presented itself nicely for him.
Well, again, from one end, Newcastle have just cast United in that midfield.
Oh, and Guimaraes restored.
Kicked off, it falls to Bruno inside the area. See what he's trying to do, touch with his right foot.
Newcastle's 3-goal cushion.
And just dragging away, I think Flecken had it covered anyway.
Dubravka claims, and that will see Newcastle United over the line on a night they have rarely been troubled.
I think the stats prove that just before, the amount of touches that Brentford had inside the opposition. Penalty over Newcastle, but they couldn't really convert any of them chances, whereas Newcastle were clinical in the first half with Tonali. They've showed the dominance throughout the game. But Newcastle just looking a little bit leggy. Newcastle just looking a little bit leggy towards the end defensively in this game. And we saw there in Mbermo and Wissa were the men that, you know, got themselves a goal. That's the only slant.
On goes Osula. Went stride for stride with Aya, and Mark Flecken did enough to keep him out. Everybody is waiting for the whistle, and there it is. It's Newcastle United's night. It's Sandro Tonali's night. He's had to wait for his time in the footballing spotlight. He certainly grabbed it this evening. A semi-final spot is secured by Eddie Howe's side, who get revenge for their recent Premier League defeat at the hands of Brentford. An inch closer to a rare shot at silverware. The Bees' travel sickness continues this term. They just can't replicate their home form away from their own patch. Tonali's double, Fabian Schär's tap-in did the damage. Johan Wisser's goal, a mere consolation. It's the end of the road for the Bees, but the Carabao Cup journey continues in earnest for the Toon. Newcastle United 3, Brentford 1. Victory for the hosts, Michael, and on the night, well deserved.
Yeah, well deserved. Eddie Howe and his team, I thought the game plan, they were clinical. They had to come out on the front foot at home. They did that, and I think they controlled the majority of that game through the midfield. And like I say, Tonali there was the difference with the 2 goals. Thomas Frank and Brentford never showed anything till the second half. There were Damsgaard coming on. And all round on St James's Park, a thoroughly enjoying match of football, I've got to say. Both teams did play their part, but I was really inspired by watching Tonali. That's why Eddie Howe was smiling so.
An awful lot better from Brentford through the course of the season. And we will see an awful lot better from them as well as the campaign continues. They didn't get going tonight. Maybe part of that was because they simply didn't get going with the ball, but also Newcastle didn't let them.
Yeah, Newcastle didn't let them. They were relentless with their pressing. They were relentless in the the possession they kept. They were quite happy to circulate the ball and wait for the opportunities. And I think the changes that Thomas Frank made to his team, there was a lot of changes, but then it was disrupted with the injuries. Collins came in off the bench before kick-off. You saw Pinnock go off early, so everything you've worked on has been disrupted. And I just think Newcastle at home, the only tarnish on their performance was they conceded a goal late on. They looked a bit leggy defensively, but they're through to the semi-finals of a cup, so that won't affect them. It's getting through to the match in the semi-final. That's what they've done. They've been magnificent tonight.
Yeah, real shame for Brentford that not only does the cup journey end, but they've picked up injuries to a few in the back line. Ethan Pinnock, as you mentioned, Sepp Vandenberg, who didn't start the game, having appeared on the team sheet initially. So those players will have to be assessed and treated, and we'll see how serious those injuries are in the days ahead. But we'll see how serious those injuries are in the days ahead. But Sandro Tonali and co are not concerned about that right now. He will have really enjoyed not just the game tonight, but the manner of his 2 goals coming about as they did. 2 very neat and tidy finishes from the Italian. Yeah,
just showing technique and quality and completely different techniques as well. There were one with the outside of the foot, one with the inside where he caressed it, but I just thought the way he took both moments showed the world-class player that he is. In Newcastle, you've got to credit the coaching staff and the players for understanding the moments in the set plays. You saw Thomas Frank beforehand with his staff setting the players up. They were worried about Newcastle corners. They set up, but they couldn't stop it. They came up with ideas tonight, and they got the goals from them.
So Newcastle